This week's game of the week is Brutal Legend. Brutal Legend is a video game made in 2009 by Double Fine Studios and published by EA. It stars Jack Black as Eddie Riggs, a roadie who goes back in time to when the world ran on demons, hot rod cars, babes, and heavy metal. The game starts as an action-adventure brawler, but quickly turns into a surprise genre, which we will certainly get into in our discussion. A bigger note here is the soundtrack is full of heavy metal legends, and so is the voice actor list. We're talking Ozzy Osbourne, Rob Halford, Lita Ford, and a couple others we'll mention. Shout outs to Peter McConnell, who composed the tracks to the game that aren't licensed. But everybody, actually, Murph, what did you think about this game?
Oh, we're starting with me.
Do you want to be negative first?
I mean, if we want to, don't spoil it for the audience. Okay, all right. So this is my first time playing it. I've always wanted to play this game. It's just been kind of sitting on the back burner. I played it. I didn't really enjoy it. I got myself a very nice, pithy game journalist review tagline. Are you ready for it? Are you ready for it? Suck it up, nerds. Here it comes. How can a game about heavy metal feel so limp?
Oh my god.
Okay. All right, your byline's made. All right, okay. You get your clicks. You should go back to 2009.
Like a lot of Double Fine games, I assume. I've only played like 3. It genuinely feels like this would have made for a more interesting animated movie than a video game. I appreciate Double Fine's like how they want every game has to be new and different. They don't really do sequels, I appreciate the design ethos. I just think that Tim Schafer has a tendency to dabble in genres he's not too familiar with, and it really shows here.
Okay. Brendan, your thoughts?
I want to set the stage for y'all.
Okay, Brody.
So, this came out in 2009, right? In the year prior, I was a long-haired, homeless metalhead I was 18 years old. I was still in high school. I was living in Portland. I spent most of my time going to band practices of my friends' bands and going to shows on the weekends. I wrote, at the time, I was writing a bunch of like metal reviews for my own blog, my own Tumblr blog, and eventually I would start doing it like for money at places like Beard Rock and some other places that no longer exist, sadly. And I was also like, at that time was when I was playing the least amount of video games. After I graduated from high school, I was playing the least amount of video games, but listening to the most, like I was listening to just metal and hardcore were like the only things I listened to. And especially like at that time, I was really into like death metal and specifically like thrash and like doom and stuff. Like those were kinds of the types of metal that this game is all about was what my life was all about at the time. And then I moved back in with my mom after I graduated. And
very metal.
Yes, heaviest of metal. I won't get into it was 2008. It was a recession. I was 18. It helped my mom save money, and I wanted to be living in a different city. It was a long story, but anyway. So I moved back in, and I started playing games again. And I got a subscription to Game Informer, and I was getting the magazine covers and like reading articles about this game. And this to me was like the perfect video game idea. I was so excited for this game. I'm pretty sure like for most of my high school years, the only games I really played were like Final Fantasy XI, the Metroid Prime series, and like a few other things here and there. But like primarily, I wasn't really playing games that much, especially when I was a senior in high school. Like I didn't play like any games that year except for like Fallout 3. And then yeah, this came out a couple of years later, and it just was everything that I wanted from my, like when I would be like walking around town listening to metal, I'd be imagining stuff that looked like what this game was. And all of the references, all of the bands on the soundtrack, the way it looked, the way it sounded, it just felt like someone had reached into my brain, my metalhead 18, 19-year-old brain, and made a video game out of everything they saw in there. And ultimately, I think time hasn't been very kind to it. And even at the time, I think, bro, I'm going to steal your line. Like, this is it's an easy game to like. It's not an easy game to defend. And that's, I think, the truth of this game. But like, despite that, because of who I was at the time and the era that this came out and where I was, I can't help but love what this game like means and is to like the metal community. Cause like I was even like watching Metalocalypse all the time. Like this was my life, dude. So yeah, that long-winded preamble, as I'm wont to do, is why I think I still like this game, even though it's not a very good video game.
Still like this game. I do totally understand, Murph. It's not a good game. This is, yeah, I get it. Okay, all right. You want to know my actual main complaint of this game? You want to know my number one complaint of this fucking video game? There's too much. Okay, I should preface this. I like all the artists on this, and I totally understand that when you hire somebody that like you probably get access to their catalog or whatever. There's probably too much Ozzy on this soundtrack.
Dude, they blow their fucking load. You can't just start with like one of the best Black Sabbath songs in Children of the Grave. You can't just start your tutorial section with like one of the best riffs ever and then expect us to just be on board for the rest of like, you are setting the bar so high with that needle drop, talking about needle drops, talking about Ozzy inclusions. Man, it rules. And then it kind of it doesn't live up to it all the time, but still.
No, I think okay, so other problem. I'll open it with a thing I like. I think what this game is still special about is a sense of humor. I think to communicate, I think metal is one of those things that's hard for people to get into. Mm-hmm. And I think for a lot of people, it's intimidating in a way where they can't understand or interface with what's going on. But I think with things like Brutal Legend or Metalocalypse, which was sort of like a specific era, it showcased that they were aware and had a sense of humor about everything. And that was always the case. And the theatricality of it was always the case. But it was much more forward facing to the public. So I think Brutal Legend's humor with Tim Schafer's writing, this game is at its best. Number one, in the beginning, the game really gets bad in the second half because it rushes so hard. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, you know this game, it's an RTS, we're going to give you this mission, and now you're done. And it's like, oh, okay, all right, well, cool. But like it's at its best when it's like that first chunk, slow burn, you're learning things, and there's good writing in it, where it's fun, it's lively, and it's good. And then like the second half also goes into exposition. And I like the lore of this game. I like its world building. I like its characters. I think that's all super cool. But they have to rush it. They have to like force it into. And I don't know if like Murph saw all the optional lore bits or not. But if you don't, the game gets really confusing in 5 lines. You know what I mean?
There are optional lore bits?
Yes.
Okay. Is that out in the open world?
Yeah, it's like those balls where you look into it and it's like, in the beginning of time, Armageddon, blah blah blah. You don't remember that?
No, I found the skulls you look into. I found the dragons with the ball gags. What?
Oh no, that's different. That's different. But yeah, there's like 12 of them where they like talk about the origin of the world. Where there's 4 elements: blood, metal, fire, and I don't remember the other. Noise. Noise is the 4th element. Those are the 4 elements Brutal Legend.
I didn't come. Remember when I messaged the group chat being like, "Is there anything to see out in the open world?" And you both said no.
I didn't say no. I said that the side quests and that sort of thing will only be interesting if you care about this world and like are interested. Because here's the thing: what Bro was touching on with the humor. The one thing, and Metalocalypse did it too, is metal. There was a study a while ago that was like metal fans are the most passionate music fans and are often the most lifelong fans of a band and of a genre. Like if you're into it, you're just into it. Everyone's a diehard, and that sense of passion comes through. Like the humor is not making fun of all these dumb, stinky, long-haired metalhead kids. It's like that line when Lars is like, "What do you do with a bunch of kids that don't know what to do except bang their heads?"
You start a
revolution, Lars.
That bit is very funny.
That is to me like the best scene of this game. Like that is what this game is. That is it is this love letter to metal that is also like it's humorous and lighthearted in a way that if you hate power chords and like screaming music, like if you hate that shit, you can still play this and be like, I think I get why people like metal. Like you will kind of come away with that appreciation.
Sincerity and passion are very infectious.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I just wrote a very positive review for the new Muppet Show for the Twin Geeks. And that's what's my main takeaway is like, the appeal of something like the Muppets is it's the sincerity of the craft. And you're right that, this game gets that metal it's kind of goofy.
Yeah.
Ozzy Osbourne has done some very badass like songs. He's a mumbly, nearsighted British man,
Yeah.
It's like, and this game gets that. When Ozzy says, "Oh, I got a couple of moves you could check out."
Yeah.
He says like fucking Austin Powers. It's funny,
Or when he's the bat and the bat's like, "I'm going to bite your fucking head off." And then someone's like, "It's kind of ironic, isn't it?"
Yeah. And so, I was enjoying this game up until the halfway point with the time skip.
I think that's
when I realized
that is.
I think that's it. That's the spot. That's the whole thing, man. I mean, I think even the people who like this game, it's
just a weird transition, and it really, consummates the feeling that this game just isn't finished.
Yeah,
it
not only is it not finished, it feels decoupled from itself in a weird way. Like it's like two different games. It's so bizarre.
I mean, it's like the thing with this game was, oh, surprise, it's an RTS, right? Like, because Double Fine wasn't allowed to advertise that fact. But, I did a count. There's only 6 actual RTS missions in a game with, like, about 26 missions. Yeah, like main story missions.
I think in defense of that, it does something kind of cool, kind of dumb, in which it tries to get you familiar with specific units. So, like, the first mission is with the headbangers, and then it's about controlling them. That mission is entirely, even though that's not an RTS mission, it is about telling them where to go, and then the second mission is about partnering with them, because the real gimmick of this game, other than the fact that it's an RTS that you play as Eddie with, is that you can pair with every unit. So the pair with the fucking heads is like they go around you, and there's like a formation. And so, like, each one is built on these things, but they don't necessarily pay off in a satisfying way, especially in the RTS fights, where you're not actually probably using these.
Yeah, because my counter to that is so many of the enemy units are so incredibly spongy that there's no... I never felt incentivized to actually get into the fray myself unless it was to play a song, like the Face Melter song.
Sure.
Yeah.
Most
of the time I was spent flying around.
Yeah.
Because, I don't feel a great deal of strategy. Like, it gives you, like, these units counter these units, but you can pretty strongly brute force, especially once you unlock a few key units. You can brute force through the remainder of the RTS sections.
Yeah, I recall finding the RTS sections either like tedious in certain instances, or kind of just like threadbare.
Say boring.
Yeah, boring. Yeah, boring. I mean, you're fighting in arenas where there are it's like large scale MOBA arenas where there's not a lot happening, and if you're not in the right spot, you have to fly all the way over around certain lanes. Especially there's that one where you're fighting the undead goth metal people, and it's towards the end of the game, and you're in a canyon, and I just remember being very bored and tedious. I find it just super unappealing. And the parts of the game that are the best, I mean, I think the cutscenes are the best parts of this game. And like some of the set pieces can be fun, some of the boss fights are neat, but like I think the driving stuff is a little bit, like, it can be fiddly. Like that opening on the bridge, I remember falling off the wrong, like she's like, go to the side, and I remember like I think I was going to the wrong side or something, and
you follow the wrong thing. Yeah, dude,
it's bad. Like it's just not.
It's bad.
It's not like, it doesn't feel like a game made by, like, it doesn't feel like it was made by a studio that has had like 3 games under its belt. It feels like this is our first game, and I think part of that's because of the genre change.
Yeah, and I want to make it clear, I like the RTS like concept. Like I think they actually sell and explain that very well in the quote unquote lore. I just wish it was actually, there was more of it and it was better developed.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah, okay, so like fundamentally the issue is like, okay, once you get to Lion White, you're into the RTS segment of the game. You beat Lion White, and then that is when the time skip happens. That's when everything goes to shit. And then there's only like 6 missions left in the game, and they are a couple with Ophelia's faction, and then you get 1 mission with Daviculus's faction, the Tainted Coil. And then I wanted to say, in a nitty-gritty RTS way, one of the fundamental problems with this campaign in the RTS, and one of the reasons why you guys probably felt frustrated, is because this game does something very, I'm going to say bad, which is that the primary strategy is to fucking rush the fans and then rush the stage. But the issue is because these are scripted levels and it's not just a bot match, once you do the thing, they will have an entire wave come out, no matter how many fans they actually have, and they will wreck your shit because you were not prepping for a defense. You were prepping for a siege.
Right.
So you are now scrambling, and then you have to reset, and you are set back 40 minutes, even though you did the game right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that happened to me in the second to last, the final fight with Ophelia. You know, I got the Rock Crusher, I crossed the bridge, and then they like spawned these multiple very hard to deal with vehicles, and they just wiped out my entire little army I had and destroyed my stage. And that was actually the only time I had lost one of those sections.
Yeah. To go back to things I like about this game, I kind of like the open world, and I like the wildlife. I like my favorite side quest of the game, even though the car section is problematic in driving. I like the fleetest stuff. It feels very Ratfink. I love hot rods. If there's any aspect of like hard rock, I'm like, yeah, hot rods. They're fucking cool, dog. And like artistically, it's super interesting. And I don't know, man. It just speaks to me. I wish if there was a Brutal Legend 2,
which
I guess we should say this till the end. But
I was gonna say, they have expressed multiple times that they are interested and would do it if given the chance.
I would suggest politely to Tim Schafer to stick to a specific genre. I would play a Brutal Legend spin-off if it was only racing, or if it was only RTS.
Yeah.
and nothing else. If it was specifically the one thing and one thing only. Because I think what this game does aesthetically, or like, I think the character design, the monster design is really cool. We haven't even gotten to the performances yet. I really like Lemmy. Lemmy as the fucking bassist with the strings to heal is super cool. Daviculus is interesting because they actually, I don't remember if you remember this, Brendan, but they cast Ronnie James Dio originally as Emperor Daviculus.
He passed away, and then they got Tim Curry.
Yep.
Brilliant.
And,
Tim Curry nails it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I thought he was going to be Ozzy's character, and then they recast him as Ozzy. I might be misremembering.
I just looked it up before.
Gotcha.
It is
it's gonna be ridiculous.
It is Tim.
That would have been. That would have been perfect too, because that would have been like the three like true old heads, who also like surprisingly Ozzy's the only one that's still alive out of those three, which kind of surprised me here and now. Like I wouldn't have suspected that he would be the one to outlive the other two necessarily.
I think the drugs and liquor really made him into like moss. He's very mossy. He's built into the world now. Whereas Lemmy, I think the smoke got him. You know what I'm saying?
And I think and Dio, I believe.
What very blunt yet ethereal ways to describe the life of two men. One became moss, the other was consumed by the smoke.
And then Dio sadly had cancer. I think maybe that's Lemmy also had cancer. I don't remember. It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, yeah, I think either way.
So I want to make a point about the soundtrack.
Yeah.
And it's not really the song choices or anything. It's how they're incorporated into level segments.
Uh-huh.
A lot of metal songs have pretty long startups relatively. And I had finished most of the missions by the time it even got to vocals. There's a bit where they do some Dragon Force. And I was like, oh, I know this song. And then by the time
it's Through the Fire and Flames.
Yeah,
then
by the time it's on a dark desert highway. No, that's Hotel California. Never mind. But
it works though.
Right,
it works though. If you think about it,
by the time it does that, I was like, oh yeah, here we go. We're escaping the collapsing castle. And then it's boom, it's over.
Yeah,
and it's just
I think
the victory screen comes up so suddenly.
Yeah,
that it was jarring a lot.
I think I will say that that isn't a universal thing. I think with some of these songs, but it's certainly that one, and there's some other ones, like the Mastodon song that they have in here. It's a long song, and it's just the two that they have, and actually they're both the instrumental versions of it, if I remember correctly. So it's just you're not even getting the vocal version of it. So I do think that there are some weird choices. But then, like I said, at the beginning, they hit you with Children of the Grave. And then you're getting, what is it? There's that Motorhead song immediately after that. They hit you with some really good set piece songs throughout this game. And it feels like,
the Motorhead picks are good, and so are the Judas Priest picks. I love Judas Priest, by the way.
Yeah, Judas Priest.
That is my favorite of the classic.
There you go. Yeah, and Rob Halford's in here too. He's Lion White.
Yep. He's in too. He's also the Fire Baron.
Yes. Yeah. Another of the he's also still with us. Actually, he still he rocks with new bands. If you have him on a podcast, he'll be like, "Yeah, I've been listening to this and this new band," and every time the host is like, "Oh wow, you still really listen to metal? Okay, cool."
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's the best. But yeah, man, it's funny. There is some inside humor that is hard to convey. The way that they are with each other, and what's the name of the hair metal group? What's Van
Halen?
No. I meant the faction. Sorry, the faction.
The faction. I don't know. It's Lion White's group.
Okay, so
they're Glitter or something.
Right. So they're
the Ironhead.
Just the way that they are.
No, that's
the Ironhead group. The way that they are with each other is historically accurate. Like the metal dudes who were into like Metallica and Priest and Sabbath, or even were listening to like Death and Scorpion and Sodom and like the early like really extreme metal stuff. Like that is how they felt about Motley Crue and Van Halen and all that stuff. Like they really didn't like each other, so it makes sense. I thought that was, and
I will say, like for like the hair metal, I think they do have good picks here. Like fucking they have Def Leppard. For me, Def Leppard would be like what I would want if I wanted hair metal in this game, and they do that really well. There's some good needle drops here. Also, I wanted to say my favorite needle drop is in Cutscene with Mr. Crowley for Ophelia Sleep. That is the last time where like the music really hit for me.
Oh right, yes, I forgot that. Yeah, they have that.
Yeah,
there's so many good songs. It's crazy that this game is still available. I know it went away for a while, but I'm surprised that it's still available, because there's like 100 and something songs on this album or on this soundtrack, and so the licensing for it must be a nightmare. But then again, like we're talking about metal bands, and most of these are on like B tier or even indie labels, like garage labels that you're not gonna have to pay that much for.
Yeah. So remember when like Alan Wake had to be taken off stores because of the licensed music in it? That's when I bought Alan Wake, because I was like, oh god, I got to get this game I've been interested in before it's like gone forever. And then they just like announce a remake, but
Yeah.
So getting into like the story and the performances, I like Jack Black. I think he could have been restrained a bit for this.
Oh, really?
I think it's like a tone thing. Like it opens with him like working at like this Machine Gun Kelly concert, and he's like, he's like this roadie. He's played 1,000 shows. He's the ultimate roadie. He can build anything. And they kind of set him up as like this like cool as a cucumber character, and then he just becomes very quippy. He becomes very, well, that just happened, and it's kind of like a consequence of them wanting to do it more comedy.
His character to me doesn't strike me as his tone or his quippiness as all that different from someone like Raz. Like it's an
adventure game thing. Like Guybrush Threepwood did that.
You know what? That's totally fair. Yeah, that
it's a very Double
it
Fine.
Fell into place when you just said that.
It's a very Double Fine Tim Schafer. Like there's a sincerity to him in like when he's talking about stuff, but he's also very quippy. It is a weird balance, but I don't know.
And I think there's a lot of like ADR like lines that overlap each other, especially in the RTS segments where every unit has like 20 lines of dialogue they can say, and it's impressive. All of it's like very contextual. Like I was very shocked when my headbangers made reference like to the specific enemy they were fighting and stuff like that.
My favorite line is tear down that shitty merch booth.
That's good.
It's so brilliant. I just got to say that real quick. Like it's so brilliant that your currency is fans, and that the way you get them is by making merch booths. It's perfect because merch, it is such a thing, and like people. I don't think people even realize, if you're not in like the heavy metal scene or in like hardcore and punk and stuff, like wearing your band is like, there's like a bunch of fucking unspoken rules. It's in some instances, it's a dick measuring contest who has the most obscure shit on at the show. Like it is a thing. And so it totally makes sense.
Yeah. And like I said, they, that's part of it. Like they sell the concept of doing it as an RTS like almost perfectly. It's just the actual execution leaves a lot to be desired.
This would have been a dope graphic novel or like an animated series. Like it would have been so good.
And then when you get to like, I was on it for like, oh, we got to take out Lion White, even though they kind of, maybe I missed it in those optional story segments. It felt like they kind of just like name dropped concepts and assumed I was familiar with them.
That's absolutely what happens. Is like when they talk about events of like the wars and stuff.
Yeah, the Black Tier Rebellion. I was like, what the hell is that?
That is explained.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, and that's why like them turning on Ophelia felt like it came out of left field for me. Like, yeah, they kind of set it up that she wasn't trusted, but just like the flat out like, no, Taviculus maybe mentioned your name. We can't have you with us anymore.
Yeah. No, I totally get it. It's one of those things where it's like, I like the open world. It's fine. The side missions aren't engaging enough for you to actually do them. Although I will say some of the unlockables in the Guardian of Metal shop are worth getting. But largely speaking, you get like 30 fire tributes. It's like a mediocre mini game. And you're like, yeah, whatever. There's some cool cameos like Kyle Gass and Brian Posehn. But like even then, it's like, yeah. That's why we said not really when you ask.
Mm-hmm. And then like once you get like 4 missions from the end, it's like suddenly Eddie's relationship with his father is coming to the fore.
Yeah,
and that was never really touched on.
That it does kind of jump the razor bore, so to speak.
Yeah, it does.
And
yeah.
You're like, oh yeah, he's the like the son of some person who was important to this world, and you're like, oh,
he's the son
okay.
of the demon empress and the greatest hero who both went.
He is the son of Ragnarok and Sikoria.
Thank you. Yes.
All right, I'm a lore master, y'all.
Okay,
I don't even have a lore theory to this game. Do you want me to say the lore theory?
Yeah, let's hear it. I want to know.
What's the theory?
This is the only time I'll ever be able to say it, I guess. So I in my opinion, when you listen to the lore things and when you listen to Daviculus talk, it's like the typical thing is Eddie Riggs goes back in time. But I think with the Ragnarok name drop of Eddie's father and the way Daviculus says you earn the secrets of the past, it's meant to imply that you're like earning like the runes of the thing. I think it's a time loop. And the summoning of Ormagodin in the current day of when Eddie dies is the start of the new age. And then at the end, when Eddie kills the Tainted Coil, it goes back around. I just think it's like
interesting.
That. Like how Ragnarok does.
See, the thing is that when I didn't even think it was like the past or the future, I just thought it was another world up until the point that Eddie was like, my father went back in time. Or I'm in the past, and I was like, when was that established?
Yeah, I don't remember that. I always thought he was just in an alternate world. I didn't.
He's in the past. It is said. Yeah.
It's so weird. I didn't realize that. Like, yeah, okay, interesting. I thought it was just an alternate world this whole time. I mean,
yeah.
No.
I also haven't played it in
Brutal
like
Legend
10
lore
years,
is
but...
deep and complex, multifaceted.
Yeah.
Clearly, yeah.
I'm trying to think of other things to talk about with this game.
Jennifer Hale gives a very good voice performance.
She does, yes.
I agree with that. The thing I was going to say about Jack Black, I forgot to mention it earlier, is I think the thing that would make me defend this Jack Black performance is he's not manic. I think he is very calculated in the cool way. He never goes into the highs of a Jack Black. Does that make sense?
I think part of it is like... Because the Jack Black we have now is very similar to the Jack Black we have then, but his place in pop culture is very different. You know,
Yes.
I think this launched me back to the late 2000s where it's like Jack Black was in like everything, and it was one of those circumstances where they thought just having him in the movie would make it funny. Like Gulliver's Travels, you know? And I think that's like baggage to it. I just kind of felt it a little bit distracting.
You have to remember though, like at the time where he was Tenacious D guy, right? Like, and the Pick of Destiny had been out for a couple years, and there was no one in pop culture who was as accessibly metal adjacent as he was. Like, if you were going to try to get like a really well-known like person in this, like this whole game is about having, heavy metal people in the game and a love letter to heavy metal. I can't think of any other, like, I don't think of any actors that come to mind or voice actors that come to mind where I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. They should have that actor or that musician be the, like, he was all of that. He was an actor, he was a comedian, he was into rock and metal, and he had done voice acting and stuff before. So he was kind of like, he was like the perfect choice for it. Not saying, like, I'm not like the biggest Jack Black fan by any means, but like there was like really no other way to go with this other than we're going to have an unknown or just, one of your common voice actors just be Eddie Riggs instead. I could see that. I mean, I'm sure people would do a good job with it, but like having Jack Black was kind of, it just made sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
no.
And I also wanted to say, Jack Black was actually a fan of Double Fine. He is a video gamer. If y'all see in the Super Mario promotions, he's the only one that knew how to get purple sparks on the Mario Kart.
If you've ever seen, was it Jablin's?
Psych Odyssey.
What's his gaming channel?
Jablowski.
Jablinski.
I've been trying to remember. What's Jablin Jablers?
What's Jablin's Jablers? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he played Psychonauts and was a huge fan of Psychonauts. And then Tim Schafer is like, oh, I could probably get him. And he did. And he even shows up in Psychonauts 2. So they still have good chemistry and good history there. So, you know, it's fine. He's fine.
I think I would love to see him come back. I don't know if he's maybe like expanded to a point of view, like to the point of stardom to where he's not on the table for some ostensible
I think he's at the stage in his
sequel.
career where he can coast by on cameos.
True.
Like he was just in like The Mandalorian, surprisingly.
That's true. Like, he was in The Mandalorian. Yeah.
I think I would be happy to see a Brutal Legend 2 because it's one of those circumstances of I would like new and varied things in the gaming landscape, and this is very varied,
yes,
from what we have right now.
I mean, I think it's entirely on the table. They said as much when it came to, like, they were like, after we do Psychonauts 2, we're going to try to do a Brutal Legends sequel. Now, I don't know what that would look like. Personally, I would want it to just be like kind of what Bro was saying, like one thing, but I don't mind if that one thing is something I'm not necessarily into because this world is so cool. It speaks to me. It's such a nostalgic thing. I think it's the best fictional heavy metal thing that has ever existed. I mean, I like it more than I like Metalocalypse. Metalocalypse is funny. It's whatever, but there's something like wholesome about this game that is kind of hard to put my finger on. Like it's specifically why I feel that way, but it's like there's just this like warmth and this love letter to metal. And I gotta be honest, I have some misgivings about some of the, I'm looking at the OST and I'm like, I'm not sure I would have put that band on that specific group, that specific faction, but that's okay. Anyway.
All right. Well, I mean, closing thoughts.
Tim Curry was really good. I didn't talk about that enough.
Tim Curry's great.
Tim Curry sells it.
Brian Posehn is funny.
Sells it.
Kyle Gass does really well. Like, there's so many fun cameos and just so many good voice actors in this game. I think that is probably its second biggest strength, other than like its world building and its just sincerity. It just has really good voice cast.
Yeah, and it's interesting that like everyone has like dozens of lines,
Mm-hmm.
Like you got Lemmy in there as like one of your like units, and you could just fly around him and listen to all like the random incidental battle dialogue they had him record.
I think so. Rob Halford's what were they again? Yeah, yeah.
He's also just one of the enemy commanders,
right?
And he has all this contextual dialogue too.
That's so cool. Yeah, no, it's so interesting, and like in the game, you feel. I guess the other thing is like another thing to note. You didn't, Brendan, did you ever play the multiplayer to this game?
Yeah, I did a little bit. I probably only played a handful of like matches. And I lost.
Spoiler alert: they're the same maps.
Yes.
They're the same maps as.
There's nothing new. Like it's cool that you get to play as some of the different factions and whatnot. But see, the thing is, like, I really like the look, the style, and the units for Ironhead. But like a bunch of my favorite songs on the album are for the Drowning Doom. But I didn't like their faction.
I get it.
Like I was like, yeah, I want to have the Dark Tranquility song and the In Flames and all that stuff. So if I could have that and also have it on the same one that has, like, 3 Inches of Blood and stuff, like, which is what is on Ironhead. Anyway, and Two in the Weeds. That is a whole other conversation. I just don't get why Mastodon is on Drowning Doom. They're like the one of the perfect like Ironhead bands. It makes no sense to me.
Here we go. It all falls apart. And now he scrolls down a little more and sees, what's that? 3 songs by Goldfinger.
Dude, I don't know what I would do if there was ska on this album. I'd be so heartbroken. I'd be devastated.
Do you want me to tell you do you know the genre description for the legendary song that is in the radio to your car by Cabbage Boy, Girlfriend, the first song you hear in this game?
Do I know the genre of it?
Yes. They have a specific genre listed for this song. It is not Machine Gun Kelly, unfortunately, Murph. It is called Second Wave of American Tween Melodic Rap.
Okay, so are you aware? I think, bro, I've told you about this a little bit when we were talking about video game genres, but are you aware of the insane heavy metal genre pedantry that exists? The stratification,
you showed me an entire list.
The stratification and nomenclature that exists.
Is this that meme where it's like one side it's like 20 different genres, and then on one side it's a person pointing and saying rock music?
Basically, basically that. But here's the thing: people take this so seriously. Like, I mean, like, so when I used to write about music, like, it was insane. Like, if I were to play you a song by a band called Unearth, you would hear it and you'd go, okay, yeah, they're guitars, they're screaming, it's loud. I get some certain sonic stylistic peculiarities about this band, but I get what they're going for. And then I played for you another band, like, I don't know, let me just think off the top of my head real quick. Like, oh my gosh, I gotta look at something that's like Unearth now.
Oh no.
Okay, Kveler Talk. If I played you those two bands, you would go, okay, I get that there's similarities, but they're very different. If I had to, I'm sure fans of one would be into the other. Dude, they are not. They are absolutely not. There's such like sectarian hatred between certain genres of metal and certain genres of hardcore and even just metal and hardcore and metal and punk and whatever. It makes no sense to me.
Is that why the factions fundamentally exist?
Yes.
Is that why it is an RTS?
This is a thing. This is 100% a thing. So that's why you will have people who are metalheads and their favorite bands are Metallica, Slayer, whatever, or even like they like Metallica but they hate Slayer, or they like Slayer but they hate Metallica. And in order to create these divisions, they've sprouted up with all these different names and things. And it's like, no, I only like atmospheric Cascadian black metal,
or forest metal.
Yes, no, I'm not even like, there's probably stuff that is called something similar to that, right? Like I just said, is atmospheric Cascadian black metal is a genre with a lot of bands in it that has a very specific sound, look, and like ethos around it. And then there is Norwegian black metal and atmospheric Norwegian black metal, which is entirely different. It's sonically similar. Both come from the stem of the black metal genre, but they are entirely different types of people listen to it, entirely different, like, album art, all this stuff.
Cultures.
Completely different. And it's so fragmented, and it's so stupid, so pedantic and stupid, that as someone who used to write about music, I had to know these genres, not necessarily because it mattered to any sort of like actual critical analysis. In some degree, maybe it did, and so you can compare certain peers or whatever, certain sounds. But it's almost always because some asshole in the comments is going to be like, how dare you call Gridlink a grindcore band? They are a cyber...
You have no idea what you're talking about. You've lost all your credibility.
They're a cyber grind band. How do you not know the difference between grindcore and cyber grind? And you're like, motherfucker, like, go away. It's like, it's fine. It's the same shit as like people being like, Final Fantasy is not an RPG. It's a JRPG. It's like, whatever. It's an RPG. Get over it. Go home. Stop. Like, and so as someone who is, I have a very wide like taste when it comes to metal. I like so many of the bands on this thing. I still like what I was saying, like Mastodon makes no sense to be on Drowning Doom. It should be on Ironhead, and that sort of thing, because like that's the sort of like sound, and that's sort of the whole vibe of metal and why they fight all the time. Anyway, I've rambled about this for a good 5 minutes. I should stop.
No, it was good. It was good. It unlocked something in my brain when I was like, oh, the heavy intensity is what, like, Tim Schafer must have picked up on that and was like, this should be.
It's 100% a thing, dude. Like, you sit down with a bunch of guys who are into metal, I guarantee you, they will all hate each other's favorite bands, unless you went, like, if you go to a death metal show and you're like, all right, guys, top 10 albums, they might be similar. But if you go to a festival where there's like just tons of different bands and tons of different genres, and you pick 10 random strangers out of a crowd, you're going to have someone who's like, I like, Candlemass and doom metal. And the guy next to him will be like, dude, I hate that shit. I only like power trip and thrash metal. Like completely different things. And they really do. And once you get into this, like into metal, they do sound drastically different. And like you will develop your own tastes and your own proclivities. It'll be like, okay, I guess I do like melodic death metal, but I don't like brutal death metal. Okay, now that's a thing I know about myself now.
So do you think, I mean, this game came out in 2009. Shouldn't it have had like a Limp Bizkit faction?
I think
I legit think the first song was part of that. I think the Girlfriend song was like partially new metal slash like, I don't want to say, I would say pop punk. It'd be like pop punk, like meets
at the time.
Metal. That's how I feel about
historically at the time in metal. There was a really big interest in a couple different types of. There was something called crabcore was really popular at the time.
You're fucking with me.
And the reason it was called crabcore, I gotta remember what's the name of the band that was.
Because they danced in a particular way.
Yeah.
They sidled to the left, they sidled to the right.
You were 100%, right? No, you were 100% right. They would squat down really low. It was a band called Attack Attack.
No.
It was a band called, I'm sending you the fucking thing. Hold on. Here you go. Crabcore.
That would be a sick faction. I would play the Crabcore faction in an
Return to Crab.
I just want to make that on the
record.
So,
like, there was a band called Attack Attack, and they had, like, they sounded very similar. They kind of like, they took, like, they would have these really heavy kind of metalcore, deathcore riffs, but they would, like, have really, like, whiny, emo screaming and, like, stuff. Like, it was a thing. And so that's what that's lampooning is, like, there's always been these weird trends in metal. And that was also coming. So those bands were really inspired by, like Christian metalcore, which really had a lot of like, kind of like whiny emo singing in their heavy metal. And also like a lot of like, the brutal, like death metal, black metal dudes who had like, inverted crosses and pentagrams in every single band logo would like, be like, what the fuck is Christian death metal? Like, how do you do that? Like, so there was this weird trends coming and starting and going, and like scene kids were getting into metal and doing deathcore and stuff like that. Like there was a big, I don't want to say passing of the torch, but just these trends were coming up at the time, and that's what it was all is lampooning that stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think I said closing thoughts about 20 minutes ago.
Man, here's the thing: is if we hadn't talked about Tears of the Kingdom and had that, I probably could have given you guys a whole deep history lesson onto why each band should be on the group or the faction that they're part of, and all the little in jokes. But I can't do that because I have to go play Tears of the Kingdom.
Okay.
Dude, I want to play Tears of the Kingdom right now. That was my thing when I played Brutal Legend this week. I was like, yo, dude, I could be playing Zelda.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, Brendan, when you're not playing Tears of the Kingdom, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Brendan_LH, and you can find me on Blue Sky at BrendanLH.bluesky.whatever. And you can also find me on YouTube, youtube.com/thecrawl. Yeah, and I post all my articles and videos and stuff that I write on Twitter, so that's probably the best place to find me.
Right on, right on.
Murph, what are we doing?
You know what? We're going places. You know, I wasn't too into a game about heavy metal. Is there a game out there for someone like me who just kind of likes, you know, anime openings? And maybe a game about, like, it correlates all of my favorite things. It's got wrestling and lightsabers and
hate against nerds.
Yeah, and hate against
like self-hate
nerds.
against
Jedi
nerds.
A weird baseball level.
Sorry.
And also has, like, sloppy vehicle controls and an empty feeling open world.
We're gonna play. Dude. No More Heroes was originally going to be the first episode of this season.
In February. It was supposed to be a double feature in February.
I'm shocked you pronounce the R in February.
I sometimes I don't. I like to keep my enemies on their toes.
It's a West Coast thing.
Wow.
Yeah, he would know that. He's from Washington.
My grandpa says Washington. I don't know why. I don't know. He says washing. He says washing machine. I don't know.
We're fading out. We are for sure fading out.
I'm just wondering what Bro's gonna play as the intro music to the main topic. Because what am I saying? Crabcore.